Very good day. Hope you are doing good. So in this video, we are going to learn about active voice and passive voice. So in our previous classes, we learned about present tense, past tense, and future tense, and we already learned about B forms, types of B forms, and when to use and how to use. I hope those lectures are very clear to you. So in this video, we are going to learn about two types of voices, passive voice and active voice. Okay, there are two types of voices, passive voice and active voices. So these two types of voices are two different grammatical structures which are used in English sentences. Okay, so the difference between them lies in the way the subject and the object of a sentence are positioned. So we already learned there is a form to form a sentence. Okay, there is a formula to form a sentence. So what is the normal formula? The normal formula to form a sentence is subject plus verb plus object. So here the first one is subject and the last one is object. So depending upon the way the subject and object lies in the sentence will differentiate the passive voice and active voice. I hope it is clear. So now let us clearly understand about active voice. In active voice, the subject performs the action directly, okay, and the object receives the action. Okay, subject performs the action, object receives the action. So in active voice, okay, we emphasize the doer of the action. Doer of the action is subject. So in active voice, we mainly focus on the subject. So let us see example so that you can understand. The example is John ate the apple. John is subject, ate is verb, the apple is object, right? So in this sentence, John, the subject, is performing the action. What is the action here? The action is ate. So who is receiving the action? The apple, the object is receiving the action. So this is what active voice means. So active voice tells us directly who is performing and what is the action and who is receiving. Okay, John ate the apple. This is the active voice. Subject will be in the subject place, object will be in the object place, and verb will be in the verb place. The normal formula. This is called active voice. So when it comes to passive voice, what happens in passive voice? In passive voice, the subject receives the action instead of performing it. Okay. In active voice, subject is the one who is performing the action and object is the one who is receiving the action, right? But in case of passive voice, subject receives the action instead of performing it. So the focus shifts from the doer to the receiver of the action. Okay. So here passive voice mainly focus on the receiver of the action. The object becomes the grammatical subject of the sentence. Okay. The object which lies at the end of the sentence in the active voice. Okay. When we convert the sentence into the passive voice, okay, the object of the active sentence will come into the subject place in a passive voice. Let me explain it again. For example, in active voice, subject is performing the action and object is receiving the action directly. So object lies at the end of the sentence in active voice. So when we are converting an active voice into passive voice, okay, in the passive voice, the object of the active voice will become a subject in the passive voice. So let us understand with example so that you can clearly understand. See, here is the example. The apple was eaten by John. In active voice, we learned it like John ate apple. Right? Simply John ate apple. Who ate apple? John ate apple. So here, the apple was eaten by John. In the active sentence, in the active voice, we read the apple at the object position. Right? Now the object comes into the subject position in passive voice. Okay, the apple was eaten by John. So the apple becomes a subject who is receiving the action, was eaten by John, who indicates the performer of the action. So simply the one who is performing the action will be at the end in the passive voice. In active voice, the performer will be in the subject place. That is the difference. Okay, let us see one more example. A letter is being written by Sheila. So a letter is subject here according to the passive voice, and Sheila is object. Who is the performer is the object here. A letter, which is the object, right? Who is receiving the action is subject here in the passive voice. A letter is the subject who is receiving the action, is being written, and by Sheila is being written is the action. By Sheila is the one who is performing the action. So now let us understand how to convert active voice into passive voice. Okay, we know the active voice formula. That is a normal formula: subject plus verb plus object, right? So here it comes. Passive voice formula is object of the active voice will come into the subject place of. Okay, object of the active voice will comes into the subject place. So here we have to replace it with the object plus we need to add to be, that means we have to add a be form here according to the subject plus past participle verb, okay, which is v3 form of the verb. Always you have to replace the verb in the active form voice formula with v3 form of the verb. For example, see here it is already placed killed, that is v2 form of the verb. Killed is v2 form of the verb, and killed. V2 form of the verb and V3 form of the verb is also same. Okay. So whatever it is, if you get V1 in the verb place in the active voice or V2 or V3, whatever it is, you should write V3 in the passive voice. Okay. If you get kill here, you have to write killed, which is in V3 form. Okay. Plus this subject will comes into the object place. So passive voice formula in passive voice subject is optional, you can use it or not, okay, because it's totally depend on the object which comes into the first place and the action. That's it. So here simply remember subject plus verb plus object will convert into object plus to be plus past participle of the verb plus subject will comes to the end, which is optional. So it is the active voice sentence. The hunter is subject, verb is killed, object is the lion. Okay, subject plus verb plus object. So the lion was killed by the hunter. So how we wrote this? See, the lion which is in the object place of the active voice will comes into the subject place. The lion, the lion. So here we are using was. Why? Why? Because it was happened in the past. It was happened in the past. Already killed. Right? Past action. So that's why we are using was. So you can ask me why we are not using were? Because the subject is singular. That's why we are using was. Okay. The lion was, so now V3 form of the verb is killed. Okay. For kill, V2 and V3 is same. So whatever it may be, we have to use V3 form of the verb. So the lion was killed. So after the verb and before the object, we have to add by when we are converting active voice sentence into passive voice sentence. Okay, the lion was killed by the hunter. The hunter which is in the subject place will comes into the object place. Okay, the lion was killed by the hunter. So remember, mostly we use active voice while we are talking in a modern English, but whenever we are writing a book or a novels or a newspaper, okay, we use passive voice. I hope it is clear how to convert active voice to passive voice. This is the main thing we have to remember. Subject plus verb plus object will convert into object plus be form plus past participle verb plus by plus subject. So now clearly understand how to convert active voice into passive voice, okay, in different tenses. Clear. We already learned about present tense, past tense, and future tense. In present tense, there are four types of tenses: simple present, present continuous, present perfect continuous. Okay, so the first one is simple present tense. In the present tense, the first one is simple present tense. So what is the simple present tense formula? Subject plus verb plus object. So according to the subject, we add s or es to the verb in some cases. Right? So this is a normal formula of present tense. Subject plus verb plus object. So now we have to convert it into passive voice. So the object will comes into the subject place. Plus remember in simple present. In simple present, in the normal formula, we won't add any be form, is or am or are. But when we are converting into passive voice, we have to add be forms like is, am, are. We know if it is present tense, we have be forms like is, am, are. The subject is I, we have to use am. The subject is you, we, they, we have to use are. The subject is he, she, it, or any singular noun, we have to use is. The subject is any plural noun, we have to use are. Okay, so now after the object, we need to add is or am or are according to the object. Plus, we already learned the verb will convert into V3 form of the verb. Okay, V3 form of the verb. For example, we know that in the active voice, okay, in the simple present tense, we'll get a V1 here. So V1 will convert into V3. Okay, plus we need to add by after the verb and before the subject or before the object. Okay, by plus, so subject will comes into object place. This is how we have to convert a simple present tense which is an active form to passive form. I hope it is clear. So let us learn about present continuous tense now. Okay, in present continuous tense, this is the formula of present continuous tense which is an active form. Okay, subject plus, because it is a continuous tense, we have to add be form is, am, are, plus because it is a continuous tense, the verb will come with ing form like running, eating, listening, watching, okay, washing. So ing form plus object. Okay, I am washing my clothes. Okay, I am washing my clothes. I is subject, am is be form, washing is verb plus ing, plus my clothes is object. Okay, this is how it will be the normal reactive form of the present continuous tense. Now we have to convert it into passive voice. So to convert the passive voice easily, the object will comes into the subject place, that is my clothes will comes into the object place. My clothes plus, see, my clothes. Clothes are plural. Cloth is singular. So clothes are plural. So which one we have to use? Are. Right? Very good. So my clothes are plus, because it is a continuous tense. Because it is a continuous tense, we need to add being after the be form and before the verb. Okay, being, my clothes are being, plus here the subject is washing, v1 plus ing form. So v1 will convert into v3 form when we are converting active voice to passive voice. So wash, washed, washed. So v3 form is washed. My clothes are being washed plus by. My clothes are being washed by. What is the subject here? I, right? I will convert into me. I will convert into me. My clothes are being washed by me. Okay? For example, if the subject is he, it will convert into him. If the subject is she, it will convert into her. If the subject is they, it will convert into them. If the subject is we, it will convert into us. Okay? I hope it is clear about simple present tense and present continuous tense. So now, present perfect tense. Okay, present perfect tense. So active voice formula is subject plus has or have. We already learned in present perfect tense we have two be forms like has or have. So it depends on the subject what we'll get after the subject, right? And then verb which is in the V3 form. In perfect tense, We'll get the verb already which is in the V3 form. Okay, plus object. Subject plus V forms plus verb plus object. Okay, so we have to convert into passive voice now. So the object will comes into the subject place plus has or have plus been. When we are converting a perfect tense, present perfect tense, from active voice to passive voice, we have to add been after has or have. Okay, plus verb. So in the simple present and in the present continuous, the V1 converted into V3. So now what will happen? The same thing. Whatever the active form contains, okay, whatever it contains, like V1, V2, or V3, no matter what it is. But when we are converting into passive voice, it will be definitely in the V3 form. Okay, V3 form of the verb plus, and definitely we have to add by, plus the subject will comes into the object place. Okay, object plus has or have plus been plus verb which is in the V3 form plus by plus subject. Okay, so this is all about present perfect tense. Now we are talking about present perfect continuous tense. Okay, so we know the formula of present perfect continuous tense, which is in a active form. We learned what it is: subject plus has or have plus been. Okay, has been or have been. Okay, we learned in the tenses. Okay, plus verb plus ing, because it is continuous, we'll get verb v1 plus ing plus object. This is a normal thing. Okay, she has been washing clothes. She has been washing clothes, or she has been washing her clothes from 10 minutes. Okay, so now we have to convert into passive voice. So object will comes into subject place. Okay, washing clothes, right? Clothes is object. So clothes plus has or have plus been plus, because it is a continuous tense, we have to add being. So normally here the verbs, the be forms that we are using are has been or have been, right? So to them we are adding being here. Why we are adding being? Because it is continuous tense. Okay, in whatever the tense is, okay, whatever the tense is, whether it is present tense or past tense or future tense, when you are converting a active voice to passive voice and it is continuous tense, you have to add being after the be form. Okay, has been or have been plus being plus verb. Here we have the verb which is in the V1 form plus ing, right? So V1 form of the verb will convert it into V3 form. Washed. Okay, washing will convert into washed plus by will come definitely plus subject is she. She will convert into her. Okay, clothes have been being washed by her. Okay, this is how we have to convert active voice to passive voice using present tense. So here are few examples, okay, to understand more clearly. So this is simple present tense. Here is the example: the cat catches the mouse. Subject plus v1, we added es to the verb plus object. Okay, subject plus verb plus object. This is the formula of simple present active voice. Now we have to convert into the passive voice. The mouse object in the mouse object in the active voice will come into the place the subject in the passive voice. The mouse. So we learn what is the formula after subject in the passive voice. We need to add a be form. So it depends on the tense, right? So it is present tense. It is simple present. So what we have to use? We have to use is, am, are. So it depends on the subject. Here the subject is the mouse. Okay, the mouse is singular noun. So what we'll get after the singular noun? So after he, she, it, and singular noun, we get is. So here we have the singular noun, the mouse. So after that we are adding is. The mouse is caught. Why it is caught here but catches here in the active voice? So because we have to convert verb in the active voice to the V3 form when we are converting into the passive voice. Catch, caught, caught. Okay, caught is the V3 form of the verb, plus definitely we need to add by after the verb and before the object. So the cat, which is subject in the active voice, will become object in the passive voice. So what is the active voice? The cat catches the mouse directly. In the passive voice, the mouse is caught by the cat. Here mainly we are focusing on the mouse, okay, who is receiving the action. But in active voice, the cat catches the mouse. We are focusing on the emphasizing the subject here, okay, that is the difference. Now present continuous. She is baking a cake. She, verb plus is or am or plus V1 plus inform plus object. That is a formula, right? Active voice formula of present continuous tense. Now we have to convert into the passive voice. To convert it, the object a cake in the active voice will convert into subject a cake in the passive voice. So after that, definitely the formula is we need to add be form. So in the present tense, the be forms we have is, am, are. So a cake is a singular one. So we are using is. A cake is, because it is a continuous tense. After the be form, we have to add being. Okay. A cake is being. After that, the verb baking, V1 plus ing form, bake is V1 form of the verb, right? So bake, bake, baked. Okay. V3 form of the verb is baked. So a cake is being baked. So of course we need to add by. Okay, a cake is being baked by her. Why it is her here? Because the pronoun she, when we are converting from subject to object, it will become her. She will become her. Okay. Next, present perfect. They have built a house. They have built a house. So what is the normal formula, active voice formula of present tense, present perfect tense? It is subject plus has or have plus V3 plus object, right? So this is the normal formula. They have built a house. Now we have to convert into the passive voice. A house, which is the object of the active voice, will comes into the subject place in the passive voice. A house. See, we have to add be forms here. What are the be forms of present perfect tense? Has or have. Because a house is a singular noun, we are using has after that. A house has been. When we are converting, remember, when we are converting a present perfect active voice to the passive voice, we have to add been after be form. Okay, has been. Next, see, we already get V3 form of the verb here, built. So it will become the same. Okay, it will be same, built by them. Why we are using them here? Because here we have they in the subject. So when we are converting subject they into the object, it will become them. They become them. She become her. Okay. Next, present perfect continuous tense. They have been working on the project. They have been working on the project. Subject plus has been or have been plus V1 plus inform plus object. This is the normal active voice formula of present perfect continuous tense. Now we have to convert into the passive voice. Okay. The project is the object here. So we are adding the object as the subject in the passive voice. The project, which is object in the active voice, will convert into subject in the passive voice. The project here. In the present perfect continuous, we need to add has been or have been, right? So in the question, in the active voice, we have been. Okay. So why we are using has been here? Because the project is singular. But in the active voice, we get have been. Why? Because they is plural, right? So here the project is singular, that's why we're adding has been. The project has been, and we know whether it is continuous tense, whether it is present tense or past tense or future tense. If in case it is a continuous tense, we have to add being. Okay, being. So that's why this is the project has been being worked. Here we have working, work, which is V1 plus ing form. Working, V1 will convert into V3 when we are converting any sentence into the passive voice. Okay. So V2, V3 form of the work is worked, work done. Working on will convert into work done. By, definitely we have to add by. Next, they will become them. Okay. They have been working on the project will become the project is being worked on by them. So here we are mainly projecting, emphasizing the word project, which is object, which is receiving the action in the passive voice. I hope it is clear about present tense, how to convert present tense sentences into passive voice. So now, past tense formulas. So simple past tense. What is the active voice formula of simple past tense? We already learned subject plus V2 plus object. Okay, subject plus V2, verb which is in the V2 form plus object. Of course, past tense means things those who are happened in the past. Okay, that's why we are using V2 form of the verb. V2 means past tense. Subject plus V2 plus object. So to convert into passive voice, object will come into the subject place plus. Why it is not is, am, are here? Because it is not a present tense. Only in present tense we use is, am, are. Because it is past. We have particular be forms for past tense. What are those? Was, are, were. Okay. So was will come after singular noun if the subject is singular noun, or if the subject is he or she or it or I. So after I also will get was, not were. Okay. And subjects like you, they will get were. Okay. You were, they were. Okay. I was, he was, she was, it was. Any singular noun plus was. Okay. If it is any plural noun, will get were. Okay. That is the difference. So, according to the subject, we have to add was or were plus verb which is in the V3 form. Whatever the tense it is, whatever the form of the verb in the active voice is, we have to write. Definitely, mandatorily. It's essential to write V3 form of the verb in the passive voice. Okay? Plus and by. We need to add by after the verb. Plus subject will comes into the object place. We have to convert simple past tense active voice to passive voice. Next, past continuous tense. So, what is the active voice formula of past continuous tense? That is subject plus was or were plus verb plus ing plus object. Okay. In the past continuous, we'll directly get be forms after the subject. Okay. So, it is verb V1 plus ing form. Why it is past tense, right? Why we are getting V1 plus ing form here? Why not V2? Because it is a continuous, whether it is present continuous or past continuous or future continuous, we definitely add ing form to the v1. Okay, verb v1. So subject plus was or were plus v1 plus inform plus object. One more reason why it is v1 is we are not talking about a completed action, right? We are talking about a continuous action in the past. Okay, that's why we are using V1. So to convert past continuous tense, which is in the active voice to passive voice, the object will come into the subject place. Plus, we need to add was or were according to the object. Plus, definitely, we learned in the present tense also. If it is continuous, we have to add being. Okay, so subject plus subject. Object becomes to subject plus was or were plus being plus verb v1 will convert into v3 form plus by plus subject will comes into the object place. I hope it is clear. Next, past perfect tense. So how to convert past perfect tense? What is a normal formula, the casual thing that active voice that we use in a modern English? So what it is? It is like subject plus had. Why not has or have? Because it is not a present tense. Okay, When we are talking about past situations, we have to use had. When we are talking about present situations, we have to use has or have. Okay, subject plus had plus verb which is in the V3 form, not V2, because it is perfect tense. Okay, so V3 form plus object. So object will, when we are converting active to passive, object will comes into the subject place plus had plus, we know whether it is perfect tense or present perfect tense or past perfect tense or future perfect tense. What we have to remember is when we are converting an active voice to passive voice, in the perfect tense we'll get been. Okay, after the be form. Okay, had been plus verb v3 will converts into v3 plus by plus subject will comes into the object place. Next, past perfect continuous tense. In past perfect continuous tense, we already get had been here. Okay. In the present perfect continuous, we'll get has been or have been directly in the active voice. In past, we'll get had been. Okay. Subject plus had been plus verb which is in the ing form, verb plus ing form plus object. So to convert it into the passive voice, object will comes into the subject place plus had been will become had been only. Whatever the subject it will be had been. I had, you had, they had. Okay, she had, he had, it had, and any singular or any plural subject, it will become had been only. Okay, it will be same had been plus, because it is a continuous tense. What we have to add? We have to add being. Yes. So subject object will comes to subject and then had been plus being plus verb plus ing. V1 plus ing. V1 form of the verb will converts into V3 form definitely. Okay, V3 form plus by plus subject, like subject will become into the object. So this is how we have to convert. So let us understand clearly with examples. Okay, past tense, simple past, we know the formula, subject plus v2 plus object, very simple, right? So now we have to convert into the passive voice. So to convert it in the passive voice, what is the first thing? The first thing is the object of the active voice will become the subject of the passive voice. The car was. Why was? Because it is the past tense, we have only two verb forms. Those are was, were. Okay, to be forms. So why was? Because the subject is singular, singular noun. That's why we are using was. If the subject is cars, we have to use were. Okay, so here the subject is singular, so we are using was. The car was fixed, which is in the V2 form fixed, will convert into V3 form fixed. It is same. Fix, fixed, fixed. V3 form of the fix also fixed. So then we have to add by. We added by here. Then he, the subject he in the active voice will become him in the passive voice object. Okay. He fixed the car. That is a direct active sentence. The passive is the car was fixed by him. Okay. The car was fixed by him. Next, past continuous. They were painting the wall. Subject plus was or were plus V1 plus inform plus object. This is the active voice formula of past continuous tense. Right now we have to convert into the passive voice. The wall will become the object here. Okay. Why were in the active sentence and why we are using was in the passive voice? That is your question now. Because we are using were in the active voice because the subject is plural and the subject is they. We know that after they will get were. Okay. So why we are using was here in the past voice? Because after the singular noun will get was. The wall is a singular. Okay, single wall. The wall was. See, in continuous tense, what will get after the be form? Being. Okay, the wall was being painted. Paint, painted. V3 form of the paint is painted. Painted by them. They will become them. We know that, right? So they were painting the wall. Is the active voice formula. Active sentence. And what is the passive? The wall was being painted by them. Okay. Next, past perfect. What is the normal formula? subject plus had plus V2, V3 plus object. Okay, in perfect tense we'll get V3 only, past participle only. She had finished the work. She had finished the work. Why had? Because it is past tense. We have only one, that is had, we have to use in the perfect tense. Okay, she had finished the work. So the work object of the active voice will become the subject of the passive voice, the work, and had will become the same. Okay, whatever the subject is, whether it is plural or singular, whether it is I, you, we, they, he, she, it, whatever it is, you have to add had. Okay, the work had been. When we are converting a perfect tense, whether it is a present perfect or past perfect, we have to use been to convert. Okay, the work had been finished. Why it is same? It is not same because V3 form of the verb is also finished. Okay, finish, finished, finished, finished by her. She will becomes into her. The work had been finished by her. Next, past perfect continuous. In itself, in the active voice itself, will get had been in the past perfect continuous tense. Okay, she had been studying for hours. She had been studying for hours. Hours is the subject here. Okay, so house, it is plural, but also we are getting had been because it is past tense. Okay, house had been, because it is a continuous, what we have to add? We have to add being. Okay, house had been being studied. V1 plus ing form. V1 form of the verb study will converts into V3 form of the verb. Study, studied, studied. Studied for, studying for will convert into studied for, plus by, plus she will becomes her. House had been being studied for by her. Okay, this is how we have to convert active voice of past tense into passive voice. I hope it is clear. So now let's learn about future tense formulas. How to convert future tense sentences into active voice into passive voice. So first one, simple future. We know simply the formula of simple future is subject plus will or shall plus V1 plus object. Why V1 in the future? Because it's not happened yet. It's not happened in the past. Okay, it's going to be happen in the future. It's not completed. Simply to say, it's not completed. That's why we are using V1. Remember, whenever you're talking about a thing which is not completed or you are not aware of the particular situation, whether it was happened or not, you have to use V1 form of the verb. So let's proceed. Subject plus will or shall. We have be forms in the future tense. Those are will or shall. Plus verb plus object. So remember, mostly use will only. Okay, it will be easy. Shall will see in like in obligations or like that. In that situation, we use shall. So mostly we use will only. Okay. So to convert it, the object in the active voice will become the subject plus will or shall plus, when we are converting a simple future tense into simple future tense, active form of the simple future tense into passive voice, we need to add be. So will or shall will become will be or shall be. Okay, will be or shall be plus verb which is in V1 form will convert into V3 form of the verb. Okay, V3 form of the verb plus by. Definitely we have to add by. Then the subject will comes into the object place. Future continuous tense. So what is the normal active form of the future continuous tense? That is subject plus will be or shall be. Okay. In active voice itself will get will be or shall be as a be form in the future continuous tense. Okay. Plus, because it is a continuous tense, the what is the form of the verb? It is verb plus ing form plus object. So to convert it with the passive voice, the object will comes into the subject place plus will get will be or shall be plus being. Because it is a continuous tense, we need to add being plus verb which is in the V1 plus ing form will convert into V3 form of the verb. Okay, V3 form of the verb. Plus definitely we have to add by. Then we need to convert the subject. Okay, the subject in the active voice will become object in the passive voice. Okay, simply remember the B forms and the V3 forms how to convert. Okay, now future perfect tense. What is the active formula of the future perfect tense? Subject plus will or shall plus have. So we know if it is future perfect tense. When we were learning about future tense, we learned that we have will have or shall have as B forms, right? So the same thing. Subject plus will have or shall have plus verb which is in the V3 form. Okay, whether it is present perfect or past perfect or future perfect, whatever it is, in the perfect tense, the verb always be in the V3 form. Okay, so plus object. So to convert into the passive voice, the same thing, the object will become the subject in the passive voice plus will get will have or shall have plus been. Why being? Because we are converting the perfect tense in every tense, like present tense or past tense or perfect tense. When you are converting a perfect tense into from active voice to passive voice, you have to add been after B form. So what is the total B form here? Will have been or shall have been plus verb. It is V3, so of course it will become V3 only. V3 plus definitely by plus subject. Object will become subject will become the object here. So next, future perfect continuous tense. So what is the active voice formula of future perfect continuous? So in active voice itself will get will have been or shall have been in the future perfect continuous tense. So subject plus will have been or shall have been plus verb which is in the ing form plus object. So to convert into the passive voice, object will comes into the subject place plus will have been or shall have been plus being. Why being? Because it is continuous tense. So we have to add being plus V1 form of the verb. V1 plus ing form converts into V3 form of the verb plus by plus subject will comes into the object place. I hope it is clear. So now let's understand with few examples. So in simple future, the sentence is we will complete the project. We will complete the project. We is subject, then we have to add will or shall plus complete, which is in V1 form plus object. See, this is a normal form of active voice formula of simple future. Now we have to convert it to the passive voice. To convert into the passive voice, the object should become subject here. So what is the object here? The project is the object. So the object will become subject. The project. See, when we are converting a simple future tense from active voice to passive voice, will be, shall be. So here we have will, so it will become will be. The project will be completed. Why it is completed? Because we need to convert verb which is in the V1 form to V3 form. So V3 form of the verb complete is completed. Complete, completed, completed. Okay. And then we have to add by and the subject which is we in the active voice will become object us here. Okay. He will become him. She will become her. They will become them. We will become us. Okay. We will complete the project will become the project will be completed by us. Now future continuous tense, they will be watching a movie. Subject plus will be or shall be plus v1 plus inform plus object, that is a normal active voice formula of future continuous tense. So to convert into the passive voice, a movie which is object in the active voice will become passive voice. A movie will be being watched. Why being? Because it is future continuous tense. If it is continuous, we have to add being after will be or shall be. Okay. So a movie will be being watched. Watching. Watch, watched, watched. V1 form of the watch will become V3 form of the verb. So that is watched and add by plus them. They will become them. They will be watching a movie will converts into movie will be being watched by them. Next, future perfect tense. What is the formula of future perfect tense? Active voice formula. Subject plus will have or shall have plus V3 plus object. Okay. In active voice itself, we'll get V3. Okay. So now the report object. He will have written the report. The report object will become the subject in passive voice. The report will have, okay, it will be the same, will have, plus we need to add been. Why been? Because it is perfect tense. We have to add been. Okay, the report will have been written. Why it is same? It will be same because it should be definitely the passive voice verb should be in V3 form. Okay, whatever it is. If you get a V1 in the active voice or V2 in the active voice, V3 in the active voice, in the passive voice, it should be definitely V3. Okay, the report will have been written. We have to add by and then him. He will become him. The report will have been written by him. Next, future perfect continuous tense. So, they will have been working on the project for 6 months. Okay, they subject plus will have been plus V1 plus inform plus object. Okay, sometimes in the sentence we'll get extra objects also, like object plus the remaining sentence. So here the main object is the project. So the project will become subject here. The subject will be the same. Then we need to add being because it is continuous tense plus working on by them, right? Working on the project here in the active voice. So we have to add the project will have been being working. Working will become worked. Okay, worked. The project will have been being worked. Working on will become worked on by. We need to add by them. They will become them. And then we have to add rest of the sentence. What is the rest of the sentence? The rest of the sentence is for 6 months. Okay. The project will have been being worked on by them for 6 months. I hope it is clear how to convert active voice to passive voice. Right? Simply, what we have to remember is in active voice, we mainly focus on the subject who is performing the action. Passive voice, we mainly focus on the object who is receiving the action. Okay? The difference between the active voice and passive voice mainly depends on the where the subject and object is light. Okay, like if the subject is in the correct place in the first place, that is active voice. If the subject is coming into the end of the sentence, that is passive voice. Okay, and what you have to mainly remember is the first thing is you have to convert subject into object and object into subject. In passive voice, the subject if you convert in the subject into the object, that is optional. Okay, but and mainly you have to remember the be forms. What you have to do, if it is perfect you have to add been, if it is continuous tense you have to add being. Okay, and before that you should know what are the be forms that you have to include in the active voice formula, because we already learned about present tense, past tense and future tense and all the four tenses including in each tenses. So we know what we have to do. In the present tense we get be forms like is, am, are, and has or have been or has been. In the past tense we'll get was or were and had. In the future we'll get will or shall, will be or shall be, will have or shall have, will have been or shall have been. So you should definitely learn those things first and then try to convert active voice tenses into passive voice tenses. I hope everything is clear about this lecture. If you have any doubts, you can text me in WhatsApp and we can discuss all those doubts. I'll clear all those doubts in our weekend session. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.